Okay, so I've got some kind of 3D geometry here. It may not end up being anything like my final design, but I at least want to now give this some context and, in other words, put it onto a ground surface and then maybe think about the relationship of my building to the ground. So I'm going to go to the site view. And it's funny, I've seen a lot of people who've used Revit for a long time and don't notice that site floor plan. It's a really useful view for lots of things. I don't want this visible, so I'm going to hide that. You can see there everything I've drawn is visible from above. So it's a roof plan, essentially. And then when you go to the Massing and Site tab, you have the Topo Surface tool in this model site area, which will let you create a ground surface. And so I'm just going to click on Topo Surface, and you'll see then it goes straight to this Place Point option. And I'm just going to pick some points going around where I've done those buildings, and I've got a flat surface. So I haven't changed the height yet, but now I'll go and type in a different elevation. So maybe, let's keep it fairly low for now, maybe 2,000. That's fine. So yes, I'm going to do some more points over here, and you can see then that I've got a contour line coming in automatically. Yeah. So now maybe put in, let's do a negative height. So I'm going to make that negative 5,000. Just go and do it something a bit more. So I'm going to have it sloping away down here. And then if I come over here, it's going to average out between those points.
At the moment, with my work, we get a survey drawing, and then first thing we do is we go into Revit and then just view the surface using the survey drawing.
Yep.
And then do the larger subsections, and then get an idea about what's happening. And then we take some of those sections into AutoCAD because a lot of people like to use AutoCAD. So then after your section drawing there.
So imagine, these are negative heights, these are positive heights. Imagine if I put in a positive height now over here, I'm going to have a sudden change in level. So I know these points are low. So if I put a point here, suddenly going to go up to a big hill that might let some of its change. So you want to just think about how the points are going to work together. Yeah. So going into 3D, then you can see all of that geometry. So I'll finish that, and then when you view it in section, like I was saying, you'll see it being cut. I just need to make that a bit bigger. Let's drag this out. So now I can see the ground surface sloping down to the left, but then it'll go back up again, that little rise, and then it goes up to the right. And you get a ground hatch. So you get a cut line for your ground surface, and then a ground hatch underneath it. And that in itself is really useful, because in all of your sections you should have a ground line. So whenever you make a section, I've seen a lot of people do this manually using filled regions and things like that, when you should get most of it automatically. So again here, so it's hidden by default in your ground floor plan, which is kind of handy. You don't usually need to see it there, but if you go to the site view, it should be visible. Yeah, sections and then also your elevations. So because my elevation views here sit over the ground, I'll see it being cut in those as well. But the north elevation might hide some of the things I've done because the ground there is higher than that level. So you just need to be careful of that. And so back in the site plan, I'll do this. So there, you can actually pick that elevation up to selecting it with a window and move it to a lower point. And now that line's gone down. So then going into a 3D view, I just hide this as well. So the surface there looks a bit flat. It's obviously sloping, but it's got no thickness. So a really useful option in a 3D view is to turn on the section box. And then if you cut the ground surface, and you see even clearer when you go to a shaded or a realistic view, then it reads as a 3D object because it's got that thickness that you can see. And so then you can give the topo surface a material when you select it. If you go to where it says by category, so in properties you've got the material there, so it's set to by category initially. And so I'll just go to I've got a site material. Yeah, exactly. So I've got site hardcore, and I'll just duplicate that. Then we'll call it, site, let's do grass. And then, as usual, going to appearance, the place, and then I can go to the site work folder here, and you'll see we've got all this different grass. So any of those grass materials will do. I know that actually is probably the worst, so I'll replace that with another one. Yeah, that one's better. Okay, so we've got grass there, but I might want different materials apart from grass for areas in this site. So back to the site plan. And so then you can also make these things called subregions. You've got a few different ways of breaking up surfaces. Split surface is usually overkill, so at first probably better off just sticking with subregions. I'm just going to draw some shapes here. Maybe I want an access road, and I want this area here to be separated off, and then another road maybe going over here. Just something pretty rough. Okay, so it's going to break up that surface following the slopes I've already done. And then that can have a different material. So I'll just use the other one. But that's it. So you can have roads and other things to break up your site, and so you can always just go back and edit that shape, just like a floor. And so I might want some more connections. Okay, so it just follows the surface that you've made. You don't have to worry about the slope or anything like that. It'll just follow the natural ground level. And if you realise later that you don't want it, you can delete it, and this goes back to the original surface. So it's not actually breaking up that surface into new surfaces. It's just letting you assign a new material to that part of it. So you've got obviously those different options for modifying your site, but sub-region is usually the best. And then you can put site components. So with site components, you can place things like trees. So we've got that library of trees. This is always preloaded into every project. You have those RPC trees, and they follow the site. So once you put a topo surface in, they follow the level that you've modelled. So just cancelling that. A lot of other entourage and other site components will as well. So if you go to, sometimes just use the regular component tool, works better for entourage. Load family, and then in the entourage folder, you have cars and other vehicles. So again, they will follow the height of the topo surface. Right, so it's that easy. And obviously you've got the 3D views where you can see that, but again, the main focus usually will be your sections. For interior design, sections are in some ways the most important view. And you can again see then all the heights should be right. And, so there's one other thing. So you may want to excavate. So with my building here, I might want that to go down into the ground. And so I'll show you later how doing ramps that go down into the ground is a little bit more fiddly, but just to have an excavated area. If I go back to the site plan, I'm going to make a pad. So back on the Massing and Site tab, you have building pads. Just going to draw a rectangle. Just keep it really simple for now. Now, the ground floor at the moment is my lowest level. I'm going to finish that. And I'm going to make a new section view that's looking up towards that area where I'm working. Bring it down, and I'm going to make not a section, I'm going to make a level for the basement. And then I'll just go to wireframe so I can see my pad. That should be it there. And I'm going to change it to basement. So then, in my 3D view, you can see it's excavated that area. So it's cut away the site. And I can extend that building now down to that level, which I'll do later. But that way you can have excavation below the ground. And I'll just show you maybe with the other building file I've got open. Okay, so you can see there we've got a car park underneath the building. That's the ground surface. And it's been cut away where the ramp is, and then going underground into the car park. So you have walls on the side there to cut, because you need those to retain the earth. I haven't put those in yet, but that will definitely have to go in there. And then you can have your here we go. So I haven't finished this one yet, but you can see I've started to do the pad there. So to make the pad follow a ramp, you can actually make a pad slope. But otherwise, for the car park, I've just got a pad that's flat underneath the main car park level there, or the lower car park level. And that's just going to excavate that whole area. And then here, there's another excavated section, so there needs to be a pad there as well. Normally you would still put a floor over the top and treat the pad like your foundations, essentially. So that's all there is to it. And you know, you do a lot with the massing tools. Don't expect them to be perfect. So if you have a look at civil engineering programs like Civil CAD, they can do a lot more. One limitation that you might stumble across or eventually work out is that tunnels are very difficult. So if you want to excavate and then have the earth left above, Revit's not the tool. It won't do that basically. But it can do still lots of things. Most things you need, definitely for interior design, it should be able to do almost everything you need for exterior works. And you know, it really will help a lot just to give you building some context. And then also, so the very last thing, when you do your perspectives, instead of having things floating in space, I'm in the middle of a building there, obviously. It's yeah, that's a bit odd. What's going on there? Oh, it's because, yeah, that's right, the shuttle. Yeah, yeah. Yep, there we are. So, okay, so having some context, instead of having just floating, makes a huge difference. When you render, you'll get a lot of materials. The trees look like photorealistic trees. You'll see when you look at those in realistic. And, you know, with the sky, it can look like a photo.